Welcome to Managerial Economics. We're going to take our time to explain a few concepts. To start with, managerial economics is a science which integrates economic theory and decision sciences to solving managerial problems optimally. So the economic theory part is predominated by the major branch which we call microeconomics, where we have demand theory, supply theory, consumer theory, production theory, cost theory, and many other theories. The first being demand, theory of demand. Theory of demand predominates your syllabus because it looks at consumer behavior, where a human being is deemed to be one with a rational behavior, having to want more for less. So demand or derived demand factors in a number of factors. So factors that affect demand include the price of a particular good, price of a complement, price of a substitute, price, the income, advertising, and many other factors like expectations, population, test, technology, etc. So it is important to understand that each of these factors will cause a shift in demand, except price, which will only cause a movement along the demand curve. From point A to point B, demand will affect price movements. For instance, from 10 to 12, it will cause a shift in demand from 2 to 3. This is called an inverse relationship. Inverse relationship simply means whereas one factor is going up, the other one is going down. So it is in opposite directions. Now, demand theory requires you to know that whereas demand has an inverse relationship, A minus BQ, supply has a positive relationship where A plus BQ. So these two are the functions that lead into consumer theory. So if you have a diagram like this diagram typifies the relationship that illustrates consumer theory at equilibrium. At equilibrium, demand is equal to supply. So there are two areas that you need to be particular of, area A and area B. These are both areas of a triangle, for which a triangle gives half base times height. Using normal formulas, area of a triangle can be calculated for this particular equation we have here. Area A has a base from here to here, which is 18. And the height from 64 to 100, which is 54, or 36. You subtract 100 minus 64. This is what we call the consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is simply the area, as has been explained here. Area B, on the other hand, it looks at the area above the supply equation. So this area we call producer surplus. It is given by the distance from here to here, which is the base, and from here to here, which is our height, which is 54. So collectively, we call this the producer surplus. So when we total up the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus.
Which one is 54? 54 is from where to where?
So the distance from here to here is 36. That is 100 minus 64. And from here to here is 54. This is 64 minus 10. Just the differences in these triangles here. Is that clear?
Okay.
So in this case, we calculate the areas as follows. What is our area here for the consumer surplus, and what is the area here for the producer surplus? Quickly with the calculators.
324.
324 goes to,
Consumer surplus.
and what is the area here?
486.
486. All right. So collectively, we get what we call the social welfare. Social welfare is when we total up the consumer surplus and the producer surplus, as has been illustrated. Now, we also must understand how to sketch these particular curves. For instance, you're given a demand curve like 100 minus 2Q, and you're given 10 QQ. One is a demand curve, and one is a supply curve. So we're able to tell that this is a demand curve because demand always has a negative slope, where supply has a positive slope. We said at equilibrium, we equate these two. The demand is 100 minus 2Q, where supply is 10 plus 3Q. So collectively, 100 minus 10, and here we have 2Q plus 3Q. So here we have a 90, and here we have a 5Q. So we divide both sides by 5, and equilibrium here is going to be set at what? 18. So equilibrium is 18. So to find equilibrium price, can use the supply curve predominantly. Can use any, but it will still give the same answer. So 100 minus 2, 18. So what you get when you evaluate that to give you 64. So this is giving you our point where demand meets supply, 64 and 18. Our price is here and our quantity is down there. However, this equilibrium doesn't help you find the intercept where it's going to cut the P or where it's going to cut the Q. So we want to learn how to draw the curves. So to draw the curves, for instance, you have 100 minus 2Q. You put the letters on one side. P plus 2Q is equal to 100. If there is no number, just infuse a 1 there. It's invisible. So 1 into 100. So you divide 100. You just put 100 on both sides. If you want to show the working.
100.
So 1 into 100 is 100. 2 into 100 is 50.
50.
It simply implies that it will cut the P at 100 and it will cut the Q at 50. You do the same for the supply equation. Supply equation was what? 10 minus 3Q. So on the opposite side, here goes plus. The 10 minus 3Q, Q minus 3, we're going to have 1. So here, put a 10 on both sides. So we're going to divide 1 here and 3 there, negative. So 1 in there it is 10, and 3 in there is negative 3.33. So to start from what? 10 and negative 3.33 somewhere here. So we don't care more about the negative, it's just helping us to sketch. And now we can use our previous figures that we got, where our equilibrium was at 64 and our equilibrium here was 18. So if we're going to extract this triangle here, we'll go back to what we're talking about. From here to here, it's 18. From here to here is what? 36. And this is called the consumer surplus, which is half BH. And we found 3 what? 86. And this triangle here, you can also illustrate it. It's given by 54 here times 18. So producer surplus is equal to half BH. So here we calculated our 486 and 324. So 324, 486. And the total cost was 810. How to get us so far? How to get us?
Yes.
All right. Now we can go to just analyze demand on its own. So this very demand P is equal to 100 minus 2Q. We can make Q substitute formula if you want. We can use 2Q is equal to 100 minus what? 1P. So meaning Q is equal to 50 minus 0.5 P. Suppose you're given this as a demand function. All right. And you're told number one. So Q is equal to what? 50 minus 0.5 px. And they'll ask you that this is called the, whenever Q is subject formula, it's called the direct demand. Then they ask you find the inverse demand. Inverse means you're making what? P subject. So what happens? This one goes aside, this one goes aside. So here we're going to have 0.5 px. And here is going to be 50 minus qx. Then a visible one. So we want to make P subject. We divide both sides by 0.5, both sides by 0.5, both sides by 0.5. So here we're going to have px. And divide this in there, you're going to have 100. 1 divided by 0.5, we're going to get what? 2Q. So this is called what? Our inverse demand. Okay, this is called our inverse demand. Now,
Clement.
please mute yourself. Are we together so far?
Yes.
Now, the examiner sometimes will ask us to calculate the consumer surplus when the price is, let's say, 45. Suppose price, or suppose we're told that price PX is what? 45. Find the consumer surplus. So here, where this price, we put 45. So we literally start calculating. So we're going to say 45 is equal to 100 minus 2Q. When this one comes aside, 2Q is equal to what? 100 minus what? 45. Then you divide, obviously, we compute this side, we're going to have 55. And you divide both sides by 2. So meaning here we're going to have what? Q is equal to, what is 55 divided by 2? That is 2 carry 1, 7 carry 5. Okay. Now, You already know how to sketch this. This sketching will be cutting at 150 because I've told you that you put the letters on one side. When this one goes aside, you're going to have P plus 2Q is equal to 100. Then you divide 1 into 100, it's 100. 2 into 100 is 50. All right. So now we're told when P is 45, what is the consumer surplus? So in this case, we're going to identify where there's a 45. Here is 45. Then when we put the 45 in here, we found our Q as what? 27.5. So this area here is called the consumer surplus. So from here, 45 to 55 to 100, what do we get? 55. So the base is 27.5. The height is from here to here is 55. So this is an example type of how they can complicate computing the consumer surplus. So what are you getting here? Half times 27.5 times 55. What are you getting? Okay. As you're calculating, I'll take you to last year's paper. A similar question was done where we were told that the demand function is given by QD XPX. And you're being asked to calculate what? Consumer surplus. And also being asked to calculate the inverse demand. All right. So this is how the question came. So the demand curve was given by find the inverse demand, use decimal. So you made a mistake, he put the answer for you. For those who did not know, they were now finding what was not even there. So in this case, let's answer it as it should. So we are given Ux is equal to 300 minus 2px. So we're asked to calculate the inverse demand. Our task is simply to make P sub here formula. So when this one comes aside with px is equal to 300 minus what? 1qx. We divide by 2 by 2 by 2. So this would be our px will be what? 150. And 1 over 2 will be what? 0.5 qx. So this is how we find the figure that was already found here for 2 marks. Are we following? Then whenever P is subject, it's easy. You don't even need to think twice. This same 150 is where to start from here. We put 150. And divide this number into there. That's the number that we're going to get here, which is 300. And that is 0. So we are being asked to calculate the consumer surplus when P is 45. So we go here, we put 45. When we put a 45 here, or there's P, you put a 45 here. So we're going to have 300 minus 2 times 45. 45 is 90. So 300 minus 90, what do you get?
Colin is explained there, I don't understand. You put a 45 where there is a P.
You can use any of them. This P, you put 45. Or even the original here, P, you put a 45. Any of them. The idea is to get a Q. Because here, if P is 45, what is a Q here?
Oh, okay.
All right, so this is 300 minus 90. What do we get? 210. So this is now the consumer surplus. This consumer surplus is therefore going to be what? Computed. So the base is 210. The height is from here to here. What is the height? 150 minus 45.
105.
105. So now we calculate 210 times 105 divided by times half. 210.5.
11025.
Okay, so you get 11025. Okay. The same now, what becomes surplus when P is X is 30? You redo this whole process. Okay, we know this is 150. And here we're now asking about 30. Okay, so we know that this, you can use the Q formula. Q is equal to 300 minus 2px. 300 minus what? 2px. So we've been given a price of 30. So where there's we'll put 30 there. So 300 minus 30 times 2, which is 60. So 300 minus 60, what do we get? 240. So now this becomes a 240. So now I want to calculate this consumer surplus. Now this consumer surplus, our base now becomes 240. Our height now becomes 150 minus 30, 120. So we're going to get 4400. Okay. So we're going to get what? 240 times 120 divided by 2 is going to be 14,400. So this is our consumer surplus. Are we together? How this question is supposed to be explained. So this is still on demand theory. Demand theory is interesting and wide. So sometimes you'll be given an entire demand function like this. So that will be your homework. I'll just within 5 minutes explain to you the principle here. When you're given a function like this, we're calculating elasticity. So we're given the price of X, maybe it's one kwacha. The price of Y is 2 kwacha. And the price of income is 5 kwacha. Firstly, we find the quantity demanded by substituting those solutions here in the given space. So we have been given what? 1, 2, and 5. So this ideally will be 10 minus 2 plus 6 plus what? 50.
15. 50.
So our quantity now will be what? 10 minus 2 is 8. 8 plus 6, 14. 14 plus 50 is 64. Get your maths for doing this. Then calculate the 3 elasticities. So you got elasticity X on X, elasticity X on Y, elasticity income. So it's easy to get the elasticities. Firstly, you need to identify the gradients. So the gradient of X times the actual price of X over the quantity of X. Cross price elasticity is the gradient in Y and the price of Y over quantity of sales. Income, gradient for the income times the actual income over quantity that we've calculated. So we have three gradients here. Gradient for good x is -2. Gradient for good y is +3. And gradient for income is 10. Now, by looking in to understand three things. Number one, if the signs here are different, it means there is what? These commodities are opposing each other. This is called substitute goods. If the signs are the same, it means they're complementing each other. They're called complements. For the income, in the event that it is positive here, it means that it is a normal good. If it's negative, it means that it is an inferior good. Are we together? So calculating.
It's negative where?
So for income, when it is negative, it means what? It's an inferior. Positive means that it's a normal good. For cross price, when it's an negative, it is a complement. And the positive is a what? Substitute. Okay. For price elasticity of demand, it's always on the negative side. So we have between -1 and 0, say it is inelastic. If it's exactly 1, it's unit. More than 1 is elastic.
Unit.
All right. So now let's calculate the cross price elasticity, x on x. So the gradient of x was what? -2. Then the actual price of x was 1, and the quantity was 64. So -2 times 1 over 64. Then we go to cross price elasticity. The gradient for the cross here was what? +3. The actual price is 2 and 64. So 2, the gradient of 3, 2, 64. So 3 times 2 over 64. And finally, the income. The gradient for the income was what? 10. The actual income was 5 over 64. So here we're getting a figure which is negative 0. What? So 2 divided by 64. It is 0.03. And here 6 over 64. We had positive 0.09. And here this is 50 over 64. We get positive what? 0.93. So for this kind, since it's in between the zeros, anything starting from 0 point something, it is inelastic. So here we say it is inelastic. Here cross price elasticity, when said it's a positive, it means it's a substitute good. So here we say it's a substitute. Income elasticity, when the positive, say it's a normal. So here we say it's normal good. That's all. So in this vein, I'll need my work. You try this entire question, which is carrying 10 marks. The demand equation will be given the prices of P, PP, and the income Y. So you need to find first the Q, then find the elasticities individually, then comment whether it is what we interpret them. It is an inferior good, it is a substitute. So we end here for now. I hope you have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this recorded?
Yes, I'll share the recording. You can share it with your friends, though, as well. It's a free class for them.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.